My whole life they didn't want me
Taste the
to do shit.
motherfucking freedom.
You know what I'm saying? What you gonna do? Where
Get
you
kind
gonna
of
go?
crazy sometimes, you know what I'm
How
saying?
you
You
gonna
just
make
got
some
shit, I
money?
just push, you know what I'm saying? Me, the way I work is I keep operating because I never fail, you know what I'm saying? I fall, I pick myself back up, I keep going, you know what I'm saying? I'm the march, fuck what happens, you know?
King's
You
Logic,
can't take me
Female
down.
D.
There's no force in
Hey,
this
yo,
world that
Vaughn,
can fucking cancel my
come on
energy.
up.
Fuck it,
Get
you
down
know?
here.
Let's go,
Yo,
man.
I'm back. Already twisted, no need to introduce. Get lifted one line. Political rap, milk, killing cancer like pills. Pop the general, it's arsenic. Retarded to the flame. Go against the grain, feel the same numb pain. Fuck shots, grab the bottle. Getting hollow, run for cover like the day after tomorrow. You can say it's chill, life's cold, but keep it real. Undercover, lost the battle, but still won the war. Dark side of the force, mind trick, transform. Jedi John Connor, doing what you wanna. Puffin' nails, hydroponics, getting lost in the madness. Sustained at the level that you practice. On my own planet while I bring it back to Earth. Crashing like a comet and I'm coming feet first. Fuck that, already spent and it ain't no apple pie. Try to tell the truth when you living in a lie.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tills from the Christ. I'm your host, Chris White, Mucosal Melanoma Survivor, Thriver, and Advocate. On today's podcast, where we talk about anything and everything, it's all on the table. Please help me welcome my guest today, Miss Julie Frampton. This is part one.
That I want to, that like I like talking about. Doesn't matter like what I messaged you to talk about, but this is specifically, let's just talk about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is exactly it. So,
I think you heard me refer to myself at the MRA meeting or the scientific retreat was I'm a unicorn among the unicorns, right? Like I'm the rare of the rare. It's like, so are you. You're already in this rare subtype, but then you're in this other rare demographic that's underrepresented, right? And so it's like, how do you reach out to that and get the word out that it is happening? It's happening in younger women and men. And God forbid, like I said, even younger, you're 100% right. Is you have to be relational. They have to be able to relate to you. They have to be able to relate to their own story, or at least be open to the concept of it. And that's not happening if you're not doing broad communications, which is now 100% tech, right? Technology has even changed traditional news reporting and traditional avenues into where it's all social. Well, unless you are open to that as an older individual and are willing to learn new things, because it is, sometimes it's confusing and difficult to learn new things, and it's ever evolving, it's ever changing, then you're kind of stagnant. You're dead in the water. You can't get that message out because communication is no longer what it used to be.
well, yeah, a lot of the response that I'm getting when I'm asking everybody, I'm not actually, to be honest, I'm not putting it out there and asking, hey, why am I not getting responses? I just take the ones that I can get, and then I'll start reaching out one by one. But the feel of it, is literally I'm the only person of my age, that's been through as much treatment,
Yeah.
in that short frame of time, and then lived, and because of the till, and then there was one other person in the group that had gotten the till, and so and she's an older lady, in her 60s, or in another generation plus, and it worked for her, it worked for me, and so we kind of both advocate, like there is a treatment, that's just things haven't caught up to it. But my way of being an advocate is to literally to get loud, to get
Exactly.
mad. I mean, we're such a small subgroup, of everything, that literally nobody's going to hear you unless you're the squeaky wheel. And you not just need to be the squeaky wheel, you got to be the wheel with the lug nuts about to come off. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gotta be loud, and it's
Absolutely.
like a lot of the times the only reason you get heard is if, like, it's not being necessarily the loudest, but the one who can like scream the hardest to get the attention. And so, God forbid that's what you got to do, but I mean, you almost have to get mad.
Well, you do have to get mad, and it's tenacity, right? No change has ever come from people being status quo on anything. Change happens because you get pissed off. You get pissed off, not necessarily because, you have this diagnosis, but pissed off because somebody else is going to get it. Or pissed off because why didn't I know about this? And so that's where radical change comes in, right? And so I've been doing this 10 years now. I agree with you. I thought surely by now, after a decade of this, I would be tired of it. Maybe I've lost my passion. Maybe my fervor has burnt up a little. And I can just tell you, I'm still as lit up and as hot to trot to get this out there as I was 10 years ago, if not more so now, because I am so much more educated of what all goes into this. And it's you have to get pissed off. You have to be loud, but you also have to be consistent because my God, nothing moves quickly. So you can't, and that's what I see is a lot of people just don't want to take it on anymore. It's a burden. It's a heavy weight, but you got to be able to shoulder that and persevere through all the other things that life throws at you to really want to make change. And it takes things like this. It takes innovation. It takes new voices. It takes new diagnoses, unfortunately. It takes these rare subgroups, which we would have never heard about 10 years ago, that you're hearing about now. Right. And so that's what it's going to take, is someone getting pissed off enough to want change and to make a difference. And that's where I'm at too. I told you many times in our conversations, friend, is that I feel like I was given a second chance at this life and I don't want to waste it. Whatever that looks like, I don't want to waste it. And I really want to put a dent in this universe, and I will never be known as the one who kept her mouth shut.
Right, straight up, like it's I'm right there with you on being given that second chance. And it's for me, it's like I know I was given a second chance, and so but it's been like such a reset in a sense, and it was like not just physically but both like mentally and emotionally for me. And so as I came out of the hospital, I was in the clinical trial and everything, that literally January in 2020 was the last time that, I ever did treatment. And then it was like, as the year progressed, that's when COVID hit. So
right.
I was telling a buddy this earlier, but it was like, hey, so you're recovering. Imagine this, like, you wake up from one nightmare just to be stuck in another nightmare. It's like, am I in Inception or something? Like, well, what's going on? Like, how many levels does this go down? But it was like, I wanted to celebrate, hey, I'm getting better, or trying to get better. But it was like, oh, COVID, had made it to where, everybody had to stay at home, and be alone. And it was like, man, like I've done my, I've been at that point, I had spent so much time already just chilling at home, being alone. And just, I was ready to kind of get back and feel the love and the energy of the people and everything, but just being isolated in that loneliness. And, I got to the point early during that year, I had to decide like pretty quickly, I have to go back to work by May 1st because I'm either going to have to COBRA my insurance or go back to work. And insurance was a huge thing for me. And so did what I had to do to like go to work. But thinking about it now, I was like, I had to rush just to get my cataracts and my eyes fixed. I wasn't ready. Like I couldn't go see a therapist in person, but I could do it virtually. Like it was like, I needed that contact with people is what I needed. And it was like, I was like, sorry. And so like, that just kind of, it was one of the things that just had, it's like, given that it wouldn't have been COVID, and I would have been able to be around people and, and feel just like that human connection, like you don't really understand like how much, that's needed in part of like, recovery.
Well, that and life in general, right? Like we know why we send our prisoners to max prisons with, solitary confinement, because it's literally the worst punishment that they could have, right? So you almost got to have therapy for two different things, like PTSD from two different things. Yes, it's your cancer diagnosis and then all of the treatment options and all of that comes with it. But then you have an entire global pandemic. It's not like you were isolated within your city. You couldn't even discuss or talk to anybody anywhere because the whole world was on shutdown. And then the whole demographic and the whole landscape has changed coming out of COVID. So even if, let's per se, right? Like per se, we could do that. Then when you get reintroduced into society and the whole societal game, the game has changed. It's all totally different.
Well, yeah, that was exactly it. You know, I was a new home construction manager, and right then, you know, at that time, because of also the of COVID, the home market just exploded. Like things were going nuts. Like people were buying houses, like, I mean, like left and right. And so there was not a lack for anything to do. And, you know, as I went back to work, you know, I tried to ease my way into it, you know, just do a little bit at a time. And I think it was about a week or two of just kind of being like you know, like helping out a guy and getting, you know, my legs, you know, back into it and just getting used to the amount of moving around and, you know, all my brain functions, trying to remember everything that goes into it. And it was like, oh, yeah, we need you to go to this neighborhood to finish out all of this and take care of that because this other guy, you know, we have to move him over here because somebody else and it was like, you know, I need you and this is what we now need you to do, like training, you know, training wheels are off, you're back in the game. And it was like full throttle. And it was like, man, like, you know, emotionally, like physically, like I actually end up getting going and seeing a bunch of heart doctors and chest doctors because I was having chest pains and, you know, and these anxiety attacks. And, you know, I'm going to the cardiologist and I'm doing stress tests and stuff. And like, you know, I'm seeing all these people and they're like, your heart's good and this and that. And I see this doctor and we end up doing the bronchoscopy. So I had to like, again, go on, you know, under anesthesia so they could go down my throat, I guess, and look in my chest and see what's going on. And it was just like, you know, this infection. And he told me it was so early into the tills that, you know, it'll figure its way out, you know, just be, you know, it'll go away. And then, but to do anything now would be probably counteractive to my tills. And I was like, I don't want to do any of that. So,
well, and so this is a great way to segue into how the whole world around us continues on and our world completely just stopped on its axis. Right. Yeah. So like they're coming to you and saying, okay, Chris, well, now I need you to cover X, Y, and Z, like get it back in the game. And you're like, wait a minute, hold on. I haven't even taken a breath yet. So that's that whole mental side of it as well, of how everybody else just their life just went on and we're stuck at the starting point. And that's a whole mind trip in itself. Right. No, because it's everybody.
And you spend so much energy trying to explain it to those around you that, you know, that are not like familiar in that. And so, you know, particularly like your bosses and the people that make the decisions, because they're still looking at everything from quote a numbers perspective. And, you know, you're supposed to be somebody that, you know, making things happen. And if, you know, you don't have the energy to do, you know, what's needed, they need to make sure they have the people in place and stuff. And so I always understood on where we're coming from, but I also was trying to, you know, be, you know, trying to at the time of however best I was in to be that for them, you know. So it was like, look, here's what I know I can do, you know, in terms of right now. And it was never like that. It was through, you know, multiple neighborhoods, taking over this, finishing out that, you know, you know, cleaning up somebody else that, you know, like never, you know, made things happen or whatever it was. And so it was just kind of like, you know, I just didn't, I never really processed on like how to do it. And the thing was during all of my treatment, I was put on all those opioids, you know, and all those pain meds and everything. And so, you know, I'm wearing a fentanyl patch and I had like, you know, 240 hydrocodone a month. And so when I got out of the hospital and everything from the clinical trial, I mean, I still continued to take the pain meds. I just didn't stop taking them because, you know, I knew that stuff was there. I had from experience that if I fell behind the pain, then I would know, you know, it was just a bitch to catch up. And so I wanted to be for sure. And so, you know, the way that I was able to tell that is by the scans. And so as the year of 2020 went on, the scans kept getting better and better. And so by the beginning of 2021, it was like, yeah, you have a complete metabolic response. So I was like, cool, I'm clean, I'm good. I know, I'm feeling super high and positive on just, all right. But the entire year of 2020, I was still on the fentanyl patch and taking, lots of hydrocodone. I mean, I wasn't always taking like the full amount, to where I had to renew it every month. But if I needed it, I still carried it with me like I was a patient. You know how a lot of patients have a little.
Because you are. Because you are.
Yeah, it's like, here's my medications. I don't want to leave the house without them in case I need it, But I still would, I eventually took the patch and started reducing it back down from 75 over time to 50 over time back to 25. Yeah. But in 2021, as soon as 2021 hit and I knew I was clean, I was like, all right, let's start, getting clean. I always told myself when they gave them to me, like, they weren't worried about me getting addicted. They were worried about me just living, period. My doctor flat out said, well, yeah, like, it's funny now because, I'm not funny, but it's just like to know all of this now. But at the time, my mom and my family and everybody was all like, definitely worried and freaked out because when they prescribed me all of this, like my doctors literally told, or didn't tell anybody at the time, but tells me now, she didn't think I was going to live. She calls it a comfort pack.
And that's what they do. It's quality of life, not quantity of life.
Yeah. And so, and then I was just in like such immense pain and I was like, you got cancer, it's bad, this and that. And so I kind of always told myself at the time, I wasn't worried about getting addicted. I mean, I've taken pain meds before. And so it was like, I'm a cancer patient. This is why they design this stuff. And so, once I make it and everything's, I don't know. I definitely mentally, and I think I openly, but once it's all good again, like, we'll get clean, we'll figure it out. And so, that's what I did. So I kind of embraced it. And like, instead of, it gave me energy. That's how I was able to get through, like a lot of my stuff. And so when I came out of the clinical trial, I can tell that's how I got through all of 2020. Cause I was high all year, So, I mean, I was still,
like, that's such an important topic to touch on because I feel like we take our life in segments, right? And the first segment is first hearing of your cancer diagnosis. Second segment is what does that mean? Third segment is treatment. Fourth segment is being able to mitigate that treatment. And you're exactly right. But what they don't tell you is when your treatments are done and when you are in that waiting pattern, that holding pattern of scans, of results, of all of that, that you're not done with all, like you just said, your meds don't magically deliciously disappear because you're no longer in the clinical trial. No, you still have active disease that we're hoping is necrotic or starts to die out. You still have pain, my God. And at this point, you do have dependency issues because you've been depending on it to not be in pain every day, which is, you're 100% right, why those drugs are supposed to be in place to begin with. But I don't know anybody in my decade of being diagnosed that I have spoken with where that potential issue of addiction was brought up and then monitored after clinical trials were done or treatment phases were done. There are people like, I can't tell you how many say, oh, I can't sleep, here's a Dilaudid. Or let's take the Dilaudid and Ambien. Let's do this. So it's like, it's a constant.
That was the third drug. A part of my my comfort pack was I had a fentanyl patch, 240 hydrocodone, the 10-325s, and 150 2-milligram Dilaudid. And those were like, I was like, well, what's the limit on Dilaudid? And they're like, there's not. You'll just fall asleep. She's like, you'll just fall asleep. And then I had like Narcan and everything. So,
but see, that's just terrifying, right? So for somebody who never had addiction issues prior to now have to not only battle for your life and your health, to then have to battle the secondary issue, because what other choice did you have?
Yeah.
Like
that was a mentally thing. I was just like, I wasn't gonna let the pain, take me over again. That was not going to happen. And yeah, I mean, like it gave me a little bit of boost of an energy, and that, would get me through the days. I mean, all the times that I had chemo treatments and immunotherapy treatments, they were all done at Texas Oncology. And I like just I would say like 9 out of 10, I still went to work that same day. I mean, I would schedule it differently. I think initially I would go either after or before work and then to work, but then I discovered I'd get more done in work like in the morning, and then I could just leave work, at lunch and then go get my treatment. Or vice versa, and that was better. But it was like, I didn't like skip the next day, I would still go to work. Like I was able to, I never actually threw up from the treatments or any of the surgeries, I mean, none of that stuff. I mean, until like I was like getting to the clinical trial. I mean, like the tires, I didn't get like sick and, that kind of thing or whatnot. Like I was a functioning, I guess addict, what I'm saying? Like, and so back to so in 2021, when I knew it was coming off of, or I knew that, I was like, all right, well, I started making an active effort to come off of it. And within, the year of 2021, I was able to reduce the patch and then actually like completely come off the patch. And everything. I felt pretty good about that. And hydrocodone, I got to a point where I was very busy at work, and I would still take those regularly, but I wasn't renewing them every month. In fact, a lot of the times, it was like every couple of months, but I still had them and everything. But I was gotten to such a zone at work by the end of 2021 or in the fall of 2021, I had left one company to go to another, and when I went to that other company, in my mind, I was kind of thinking the assumption of maybe, I could be in a position to where I can be a real effective employee and everything, we're going to be able to set things up, to where it's all, I'm able to handle everything and this and that. But what ended up happening was, it was just the nature of the game for the business I was in. I mean, it got real busy. I mean, I was able to get set up, in my own kind of a spot, but, we just got busier than we normally do. And what I was in my mind, I wasn't taking the time for myself. I was so invested in trying to be that employee and deliver that I would, be so exhausted every day from the days just of work. And it wasn't anything physical, but I was out and about all day and stuff. But when I get home, if I didn't eat and shower immediately, I wouldn't do it, and I would just be like a vegetable. And then by the weekend, I was so exhausted from the week, I didn't do anything, didn't go anywhere. And so, the COVID restrictions really didn't start lifting until, mid 21 to a bit, and stuff like that.
Really, 2022, honestly. I mean, we're just now getting to the point where people are going, even though we're still in a pandemic, they're going back to pre-pandemic numbers, flights, things like that. But really, it was 2022. So, well, we're talking not even a full 12 months out of, because think about it, right? Like Omicron was the second wave that came through that was kind of like still the stronger one. We've had a couple since then, but that was just in 2022. So it's kind of crazy, but you bring up a great point because, and we hear this so much growing up, right? And even like young adolescence, young adulthood, everybody's always saying like, take care of you, make time for you. Well, nobody knows what that actually looks like, right? Because we're chasing this proverbial carrot of what does success look like? What does it mean to matter? And so we're constantly chasing this carrot, meaning that we're not taking time to truly reflect and sit with ourselves, right? And I will tell you, it took my own cancer diagnosis and then some to truly start reflecting. I just kind of started doing that within since COVID, honestly. As a mom of two, I still don't have all that luxury of being able to do it, but now I'm way more strategic about where I put my time and energy. Because our diet is so much more than just the food we put in our body. It is our sensory diet. It is what we allow to bother us. It is what we put in our minds. It is what we listen to, who we surround ourselves with. So when you don't have a diet at all, because COVID completely shut it down, you're detoxing. I mean, my God, Chris, I think you're doing okay. I feel like.
Well, so here's, it's kind of a roller coaster. So, 2021, I get this new job and we get into 2022. So in 2022, I'm off the patch by then, and I'm so busy at work that I'm not taking many pain meds. I usually take in the morning. But then, or at one point, but usually there would be like, many days where I didn't even, do that. And I would be so busy, but the exhaustion factor. And then it was like, I didn't really realize this until now, but, the energy that it gave me, and without like really properly like processing. Right. And another thing was when, I approached, doctor, and I was like talking about, hey, so we, figure it out. And once I got better, and she was like, that's when she told me she never, thought that I was going to make it. She literally told me, she was like, Chris, you're a miracle. People, that doesn't happen. And so she's like, but the pains that I have are still real, but since there's nobody to base it off of, but she had to remind me of all the treatment I went through in that short amount of time and how much, that took a toll on my body. And so the recovery from that and just the permanent effects, you're not just going to know. She's like, so there's going to be some pain. So she was just like, it was like, you're going to need to have those, or it's good to kind of have them in case you need them. But, right. It was like, try to reduce the amount and this and that. And so I was like, okay. And so that's kind of the thing. But during that same year of, in 2021, when I was like, all right, complete metabolic response, that's when I started, I got into therapy for the first time. Like to find, I was able to get an in-person therapist.
Right. Which is so different.
And so, and do that. I was doing really well at work, in a sense. Well, in terms of like numbers and things, I was building models in record time, but I was getting written up.
How are you?
Doing it. Yeah. And so it was like, it was like, I can get this done, but here's how I was just in such a zone and a mode of continually like trying to like re-explain myself. It was becoming so mentally exhausting because it was like you said, time did not stop for anybody else, or time doesn't stop. It's, doesn't matter. And it's basic. I almost got the feeling it was like, look, here's what the job entails and requires, either right. You can do it or you can't. This is like either not necessarily a young man's profession, but somebody's got to be able to keep up with the energy to do this day in and day out and all the hours and follow up and stay on top. And, it's so much. And it was like, I was just trying to relearn my limits of what I could do both mentally and physically.
Right.
In a sense, you know what I mean? Like I try, just memory and all this and that. And so, it was kind of, I've had to try to figure out how to, detox and rehab myself off the pain meds and everything to the point to where I can, maintain a prescription, but like have it like a responsible adult, you know what I mean? So,
right.
It's like, there's some days to where like everything just, it cracks and cricks. And, I just started doing pickleball. I went out and played last Saturday for my first time. Yeah, I played for 2 hours. I think I was in like 6 games. I literally just went to watch. It was right after we did that. I made sure, I was so excited for that, for the AIM thing. Cause I wanted to make sure I woke up on time and I got out the door on time. Cause I knew it was a 45-minute drive and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be there, 7:15. And
you were a powerhouse the whole time. And I can't thank you enough. Like the whole AIM staff was just like, oh my God, who's this Chris guy? I'm like, I freaking told you, he's like a national treasure. You should really tap into that.
And that's what I told him. I was like, I've met Sam in person more than once, and I met Ann in person, and I've been to their symposiums and I follow them and stuff. And so I was like, yeah, for sure. I was more than happy to help, but it was like, I used to get up and go run and help around tournaments like that, when I was like, in my 20s when I was working at the golf course, and stuff. Right, so it's been a while,
Take away a cancer diagnosis, take away a trial, take away
so the whole energy factor, but I went home actually.
The fact of the matter is we're in our freaking middle 40s. I'm exhausted.
I went home. Regular. I think I got home like at 12:15 from Bachman Lake, and then I just tried to just lounge out. I didn't end up like sleeping or anything, but I just kind of laid there for a little bit and chilled out and stuff. And then the Dinko de Mayo thing for pickleball started at 4 o'clock. So I wanted to make sure I got, so I think I left like at 3:15 so I could make sure whatever time so I get there and everything. And my stepdad gave me an extra paddle to kind of hold on to or this, that. And he's like, but the idea was I was just going to sit there and watch and kind of check it out, and then maybe jump in and stuff or whatever. But as soon as it got started, like they were like, the way they did it was like random numbers, everybody pull a number out of a bucket and stuff. And then they're like, just like Chris, and it's like, sure. And so I ended up going and playing and stuff. And but I did a little warm up with Bucky first to kind of get the gist. He was explaining a little bit to me, and so I would just tell people like, and the random partners that I've become with, like, all right, this is my first day, I don't know anything about the rules and scoring and this and that. So literally, like, you're gonna have to remind me like how to score, or and what the rules are and where to stand and where and this and that, because no, I'm not going to remember. I promise you that. Even after you tell me I should know it, I'm probably still not going to remember it. So, but I ran around pretty good, and it was a nice little burst of energy, because it's like, it's when you're playing doubles and it's on a pickleball thing, your space that you have to cover is not large. It's
okay.
So you're not like running. And so but I played like kind of 2 hours straight. We had some little breaks in between and stuff, I had plenty of water to drink, so it was all good and stuff. I got my little sweat on, but yeah, like the next day, like, man, like, I was told like my muscles, because I was just, especially like, like my calves, like what, for the first, when I go snowboarding, I try to go as much as I can, but usually it's only a couple times a year or whatever. But I'll always go like hard enough to make sure that, I get a decent workout of it. But, it works your whole body in like so many different ways, your torso, all this and that. Same kind of thing. It's like pickleball, but it's like these short, spurty movements and everything. And so it's
more of like a sprint.
Well, not like really even a sprint, but just like it's these short cardiac like burst and stuff, but nothing. Yeah, and it's more ping pong. It's literally, it feels more ping pongish to me, and everything and stuff. And nobody's serious about it. And like, I'll be watching like, where the ball actually lands and stuff, and people aren't paying attention. There's no replay, and they'll just be like, yeah, it was in, and they'll just agree with them when it's not, or whatever, and I'm like. So it was just like, and the thing is, you only play to 11, so the games go quick. You're not just. It doesn't. It's easy, and it's fun.
It also sounds like, I was going to say, that sounds like a great outlet, because when I think of Chris White going and observing something, I don't see you as the sidelines guy any more than I'm the sidelines girl. Like, I need to get in the middle, even if I don't know what I'm doing.
It depends, it depends. Like, do they let volunteers? I mean, I don't know. So it just depends. But if it's fun,
no, but like, you showed up and showed out at the walk too. Like, you weren't going to do it half-assed. You were going to use your whole ass, which I'm all about. Don't half-ass anything. If you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
And
I was like, I didn't want to like be there and just be like, yeah, I'm standing here, like, well, I don't, I was like, let me try to be useful, you know what I mean? Like, for somebody to.
Did you ever see that old MTV cartoon? It was called Daria.
Yeah, I remember Daria, because she was she was off of Beavis and Butthead, and then she got her own show.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then I used to watch. Yeah,
it was like always standing there with volleyball, and like, it would just, when you said that just a minute ago, that's what it reminded me of, with like Daria trying to be involved but not really. She's like, I'm here, present. Not Daria.
No. And so,
well, I'm super excited to come out and be able to support you in that. I think what you're doing is fantastic. And
so yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Like, I need to go back there and just kind of double check a few things. My stepfather Bucky, he's thinking that we can pull the food truck in over here. And I went and I looked at it, and I was like, getting from what access point, you know, as I'm looking around at it, I'm like, yeah, like it'll fit here, but you know, it's going to have to go through this path and that path. And, you know, the wheels from the trailer and all this and that, it's probably going to, you know, if it does like sod damage or landscape damage, you know, or end up doing, you know.
Well, and all this rain, I don't know about y'all, but down here, it just poured buckets again today. I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's been on and off, you know, like.
So that's going to make the ground soft.
My grass, I'll put some pictures up on this, but I do have the greenest grass in the hood right now, at least on my street. I promise you that. You know, people ask, and I'm like, look, you get some weed and feed, you know, and you just do it at the right times, and you make sure you get it in. But then also on top of that, you know, I always would just go get some Miracle Grow, just the general stuff. You hook in the thingy,
right?
And when you get bored, you just go stand out there and water your front lawn and drink beer. I literally do that. I literally do that. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, it's called fertilizer and beer. Oh, and water.
Are you the guy? Are you the grumpy old man that's like, get off my lawn? Are you?
No. Like, I put these big, what are those big blow up things that you plug in and they blow up in your yard for Christmas? So I got blow-ups. I got a big Grinch, and then I got an Olaf, I got a Santa Claus, I got a little Grogu from the Star Wars thing. I got I got like 6 of them now. I mean, you know, it's, you know, I put lights. I try to put lights through my bushes and stuff. And I got a nice rose bush in my front yard and stuff. But I was just like, the kids will be walking by. They'll be like, go take some pictures. You know, I chat with the neighbors.
Do you keep them up year round? Do you keep your blow ups year round?
No, I mean, they're in the. I put them up, you know, after Christmas. You know, I mean. If one was appropriate, I mean, you know, that is. I should have busted out the little Grogu one for, you know, May 4th. Now that I think about it, I'll do it next year.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
You know, but no, that'd be a good idea. I do keep up. I have a blue light deal that wraps around my front door, and it's more. I wouldn't want to have to redo it, so I've just kept it up. It's been there for a while now.
You should get your brand that you're creating. Get your brand with your ribbon and the Pac-Man thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Eventually, I want to get one of those spotlights where I can shine it up in the clouds. Boop. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want. Like a Batman signal, you know, straight up.
Next time you go to DC, you can like bounce it off the Washington Monument.
Oh, I love it. It could be a great picture opportunity and stuff, but like, so
for days.
I was just thinking about this before we wrap up this call here shortly, but so in 2022, you know, I'm figuring out the balance, right? I've come off the patch. I know I'm clean from the melanoma and everything. Taking hydrocodone once in a while, but I'm so engaged with work that I just it's just becoming overwhelming. Also in the same time in 2021, I knew I got better. That's when I started joining back into the support groups and looking for therapy and trying to do better, trying to be better, trying to, put the past behind me or whatever, but 2021 ended up turning into something emotionally, like where a lot of the relationships around me, like I didn't know how to play the part that I used to, because my only thing was, I had reset mentally to where it was like, the only thing that is important is not any of this bullshit anymore that, people are beefing about and this and that. And I was in such shock from like those around me that were doing that. And I was just like, anything about that, I was like, I don't know. And so, and at that same time, that's when I started researching my own story and reading my old scans. And my mom had given me her notes and stuff and everything, so I could kind of go back and look through that along with the scans I was able to pull up through all my records and stuff. And so it was like doing a whole research project, because I wasn't looking at, I never looked at my whole journey through all of that, like through their eyes of how everybody else was looking at it, because I had to maintain that Tyler Durden of positivity kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? That was like Chris White,
which is exhausting.
Talking about his, being all the emotionals and the what ifs. It was like the belief factor was like, full throttle. It was like there is no room. I'm not leaving room for there to be a chance that I'm not gonna make it. And so,
right,
it literally was like that was my thing. And so now that I'm going through over the next year, I end up starting to write my little thing about that 18 months and everything and stuff. And so I'm starting to really realize what, like, the different perspectives. But during as all that was going down during the time, we never had those conversations. And so it was like, they're probably harboring a lot of that stuff too and everything, but nobody's ever saying anything to me. It's like, it's all on me to approach them. And and so it was
that's
always
a heavy load too, though. Really
and it was like, I'm not sure how to necessarily do that, and everything. And it was just like, it was so intense and overwhelming, you know what I'm saying? Yes. And so, you got all that kind of stuff going on, like emotionally, it's like I'm trying to repair, but, it's real hard to do. And then I'm still, doing this full-time work thing because got to keep that insurance, got to have an income. And that was all the important things. Is like, you go to work so you can make the money, so you can pay the bills, and it's like the recycling, it was the purpose thing, because being a part of, some of the advocacy support groups that I was in, or just, knowing that they were, starting to connect, and everything. I was just kind of like, the more I told my story, the more I kind of realized how rare a lot of it is. Right. And just my age group, and, just to be able to relate to people. And,